Valuation process. A systematic set of procedures an appraiser follows to provide answers to a client's questions about real property value. Sales comparison approach. Definition of the problem. Step 1 of valuation process. 1. Identify the intended user. 2. Determine the type and definition of value to be estimated. 3. Determine the effective date. 4. Identify property characteristics. 5. Define the assignment conditions. Engaged an appraiser to prepare an appraisal report for a new mortgage. The property owners pays the appraiser when they meet at the property. 1. Who is the client? Lender. 2. Who is the intended user? Lender. Identify the intended use. The intended use can be determined by communicating with the client at the time of the assignment. The intended use must not affect the appraiser's independence, impartiality, and objectivity. Determine the type and definition of value. Market value, use value, assessed value, investment value, liquidation value, insurance value, and going concern value. Market value. The value most commonly estimated by appraisers and sought by lenders, sellers, purchasers, and others. There can be different definitions of market value, so care must be exercised to correctly define the market value being estimated in the appraisal. Use value. Often referred to as value in use and reflects the value a specific property has to a specific use. Assessed value. The value of a property for ad valorem taxation. Investment value. The value of a property interest to a particular investor or class of investors based on the investor's specific requirements. Liquidation value. The most probable price that a specified interest in property should bring under the following conditions. 1. Consummation of a sale within a short time period. 2. The property is subjected to market conditions prevailing as of the date of valuation. Insurable value. A type of value for insurance purposes. Going concern value. Market value of the tangible and intangible assets of an established and operating business with an indefinite life is if sold in aggregate. Effective date of the value opinion. Identify relevant characteristics of the property. Relevant property characteristics include the property's location along with its physical, legal, and economic attributes, fee simple estate, leased fee interest, leasehold interest. Fee simple estate. Leased fee interest. Leasehold interest. Identify the assignment conditions. Extraordinary assumption. Hypothetical condition. A condition that is presumed to be true when it is known to be false, appraising proposed improvements such as new construction as if they existed on a current date when they do not. Systematic procedure applying sales comp approach. Units of comparison. The components which a property may be divided for purposes of comparison which usually facilitate analysis even when the properties are not very comparable. 1. Price per acre. 2. Price per square foot. 3. Price per front foot. 4. Price per developable unit. Elements of comparison. The relevant characteristics used to compare and adjust the sale prices of the comparable properties in the sales comparison approach. 1. Size. 2. Shape. 3. Zoning. 4. Location. Techniques for estimating adjustments. Quantitative analysis techniques and qualitative analysis techniques. Qualitative data. consists of relative comparison analysis, which is the study of market-based relationships without quantification. Quantitative adjustment. Quantitative analysis. The process of accounting for differences between comparables that are quantified. A QA technique might include paired data analysis or sensitivity analysis. Qualitative data. Data that is based on subjective measures, where the data tends to fall into nominal or ordinal categories, usually rep in the form of words. Qualitative analysis. Units of comparison. Unit of comparison. Examples: acre, bed, bedroom, building site, cubic foot, loading dock, linear or front foot, room, seat, vehicle, land, hospitals, apartment, residential dwelling, distribution warehouse, waterfront site, apartment, theater, restaurant, or parking garage. Standard deviation. 1. Indicates how well the mean represents the whole sample or population by describing a standard measure of variation. 2. It is used and understood in many disciplines. 3. Indicate what percent of the sample of a population may be expected to fall within selected ranges or confidence intervals. Measures of variation dispersion. Describe the disparity among the values of the variates that make up the population. They indicate the degree of uniformity among the variates and reflect the quantity of the data as a basis for conclusion. Average deviation. Measures how much the actual values of a population or sample deviate from the mean or median. Like the range, the average deviation does not lend itself to further statistical calculations. Standard deviation. Describe a sample or a population that lends itself to further mathematical treatment. When this is used, the rules of probability can be applied to draw inferences from samples concerning the attributes of the population. This assumes the data sample and population are normally distributed. Coefficient of variation. The ratio expressed as a percent of a variable's standard deviation to its arithmetic mean. This is a measure of absolute dispersion or variation to the mean. It is useful when comparing various units of comparison. Elements of comparison. Transaction adjustments. These should be adjusted first. 1. Real property rights convey. 2. Financing terms. 3. Conditions of sale. 4. Expenditures made immediately upon purchase. 5. Market conditions. Elements of comparison. Property adjustments. These should be adjusted after the transaction adjustments. 1. Location. 2. Physical characteristics. 3. Economic characteristics. 4. Use. 5. Non-realty components. Financing term or cash equivalency adjustment. Should be based on market evidence. May be necessary to make the value opinion consistent with the market value definition on which the appraisal is based. The sales prices of comparable properties sold with atypical financing are adjusted to be equivalent with defined market terms. Condition of sale adjustment. Should reflect the motivations of the buyer and the seller. Can be for either a concession or a price premium. A part should be interviewed to estimate the magnitude of this adjustment. These adjustments are difficult to quantify. Adjustment immediately after purchase. Market conditions adjustment. Property adjustments. Location, physical characteristics, economic characteristics, use and non-realty components of value. Economic characteristics adjustment. Attributes of a property that affects its net operating income, operating expenses, quality of management, tenant mix, rent concessions, lease terms, lease dates, renewal options, lease provisions. Use adjustment. highest and best use and/or zoning. They are difficult to support and are generally used only when other sufficiently comparable transactions are lacking. Non-Realty Components Adjustment. Tangible and intangible personal property included in the sale of either the comparable or the subject property. Non-realty components should be analyzed separately from the realty. Physical characteristics adjustment. Size, age, condition, functional utility, energy efficiency, green features or certifications and quality of improvements. Location adjustment. Time-distance relationships or linkages between a property or neighborhood to all other possible origins and destinations of people going to or coming from the property or neighborhood. General data. Items of information on value influences that derive from social, economic, governmental, and environmental forces and originate outside the property being appraised. Specific data. Data sources, federal, state and local agencies. Council of Economic Advisors, Fed Reserve Board, National Vital Statistics System, Centers for Disease Control, U.S. Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, UPA, Chamber of Commerce. Data sources, trade associations. National Association of Realtors, Site to Do Business, Urban Land Institute, National Association of Home Builders, U.S. Green Building Council. Private data sources. Local and regional planning agencies and private sources. Market area. The geographical region from which a majority of demand comes and in which the majority of competitors are located. Market analysis. The study of the supply and demand in a specific area for a specific type of property. Marketability analysis. Highest and best use analysis. The reasonably probable use of a property that results in the highest value. 1. Legal permissibility. 2. Physical possibility. 3. Financial feasibility. 4. Maximum productivity. Site as though vacant and site as though improved. Ideal improvement. The improvement that takes maximum advantage of the site's potential given market demand, conforms to current market standards and the character of the market area, and contains the most suitably priced components. The improvement that represents the highest and best use of the land as though vacant. Consistent use. The concept that land cannot be valued on the basis of one use while the improvements are valued on the basis of another. Interim use. The use to which a site or improved property may be put until ready for the more productive highest and best use. Legally non-conforming. A use that was lawfully established and maintained but no longer conforms to the use regulations of its current zoning. Verification of a sale. Validated, learned, directly acquired, indirectly acquired. Verification of a sale, validation. Information that you were aware of or suspected before communicating with a party to the transaction recording date. Verifying a sale, learned. Information that you did not know or suspect before communicating with a party to the transaction buyer's motivation. Directly acquired. Information that flows from a party to the transaction to you, telephone conversation between the buyer and the appraiser signing the report. Indirectly acquired. Comparable information from another appraiser, a researcher, or a data service. Comparative analysis. The process by which a value indication is derived in the sales comparison approach. Comparative analysis may employ quantitative or qualitative techniques either separately or in combination. Steps to comparative analysis. Adjustments. Mathematical changes made to basic data to facilitate comparison or understanding. Items should be prorated or apportioned between the purchaser and the seller in a real estate transaction. Quantitative techniques. Paired data analysis, group data analysis, secondary data analysis, statistical analysis, graphic analysis, trend analysis, cost analysis, capitalization of rent differences. Qualitative analysis. Relative comparison analysis. Used to determine whether the characteristics of a comp are inferior, superior, or sim to those of the subject. Ranking analysis. Variant of relative comparison analysis in which comparable sales are ranked in descending or ascending order of desirability and each is analyzed to determine its position in relation to the subject. Quantitative data sequence of adjustments. 1. Real property rights conveyed. 2. Financing terms. 3. Conditions of sale. 4. Expenditures made immediately after purchase. 5. Market conditions. Limitations of paired data analysis. Graphic analysis. Plotting unit sales in relation to various elements of comparison can help an appraiser determine the necessity for and the amount of an adjustment. The graph might show whether change is occurring in a straight line or a curve, depending on the method used to construct the graph. Linear regression. In quantitative analysis, a function that uses one independent variable to reflect a relationship that changes on a straight line basis. Simple regression. A regression with one independent variable. Multiple regression. A regression with two or more independent variables. Cost-related adjustments. These adjustments relate to the cost of bringing the property up or down to match the condition of the market standard. X. Architectural fees, engineering fees, costs of permits or other entitlements, insurance during construction, leasing costs. LEAP. Entrepreneurial incentive. Group data analysis. Data is grouped by independent variables. The groups are then studied in pairs to identify the dependent variable. Sensitivity analysis. Scenario analysis. Trend analysis. Applicable when a large amount of market data is available for analysis. It is especially useful when data is available for a limited number of closely comparable sales. It can test elements influencing a sale price to determine their market sensitivity. Final reconciliation. The last phase in the development of a value opinion in which two or more value indications derived from market data are resolved into a final value opinion, which may be either a final range of value or a single point estimate. Reconciliation criteria. The criteria that enable an appraiser to form a meaningful, defensible conclusion about the final value opinion. Value indications are tested for the appropriateness of the approaches and adjustments applied, the accuracy of data, and the quantity of evidence analyzed. Purpose of reconciliation. Provide an integral quality control assessment of the valuation process leading up to the final opinion of value. Reconciliation helps identify key factors that must be cited and explained in the appraisal report. Appraisal judgment, experience, proper application of appraisal techniques.